Welcome to the Global Peace Film Festival Lives Online Conversation 2021 Festival Edition. Please join me, Kelly Devine, the Artistic Director, and Nina Strike, the Executive Director, as we join in conversation with Richard Yelland, the Director of Seeding Change, the Power of Conscious Commerce. This film will be a part of both our in-person screenings, which begin September 21st and run through September 26th, as well as being available during our streaming portion of our festival, which starts September 27th and runs through October 3rd. All the information about scheduling, tickets, and availability can be found on peacefilmfest.org. And now, please welcome Richard Yelland. Richard, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks so much. Really glad to be here.
It's great to have you join us, and we're really thrilled to have the film in the festival. So let's start out by tell us about the film.
Sure. Seeding Change, the Power of Conscious Commerce is a film that actually documents a movement of companies that are looking to change the world through their business models. And they're tackling some of today's biggest social and environmental problems by focusing on a triple bottom line business, which means that they are actually not only concerned with profits, but also people and planet in equal measure. So really, the film is exciting in that it can engage consumers to be part of the solution. It can empower consumers to look at their everyday purchases and say, with my spending power, I could actually align my dollars with companies that can make a difference for the planet. So instead of buying a product that might be cutting the rainforest down, I could be putting my money on a product that's actually preserving or helping protect the rainforest. So it's a really exciting proposition, not only for a student in social entrepreneurship or a student at business school looking to create a business to change the world, but also for people walking around the mall and wondering, what can I do? Because there's too much plastic, there's too much consumerism, there's too much fuel being burned. Like, what can I do? There's a sense of helplessness out there. And I think this film, what we set out to do, there's really hopeful stories that we can focus on. And there's really something that we can all do every day as consumers to be part of a solution and collectively join together to start solving problems that seem insurmountable at times.
Well, Richard, you touched a bit on the importance of the story, but how did you come to find this particular story, and what was your approach in telling it?
Well, interestingly enough, this really started about one company, a story on a company that introduced acai berries to the world. So they're a really compelling company in that they started 20 years ago. They discovered acai in Brazil. And they said, this is really good. And wow, it's good for you too. And it comes from these trees in the floodplains of the Brazilian Amazon. And that it's this powerful fruit that is, when you pick it, it's like, and you harvest it, it's actually part of this ecosystem, and it can be harvested sustainably. And the more they learn, they're like, this is really an amazing thing. Like, we should share it with the world. And we could build a company that's a fair trade company that gives back to the people in the rainforest, could build up the economy there, but also by adding value to the trees, could protect those trees from being cut down, because clear cutting is really a big problem. Every day, forest is being cut down in the rainforest. So, it started there. It started with this company called Amazon and telling their story. And along the way of telling that story, we met other companies that they actually had partnered with when they started the company 20 years ago. Back then, it was incredibly groundbreaking to try to start a company and become a fair trade organic company and bring a berry from Brazil. And really, it was like people thought they were crazy and it was an impossible idea. And so they came across other social entrepreneurs like themselves and formed a collective of companies called One Step Closer. So among those founders of that group, this nonprofit, Numi Tea, which is a fair trade company does regenerative farming and really takes care of its people around the world, organic teas, Dr. Bronner's soaps, even companies like Patagonia is part of One Step Closer now. But these early companies, they formed a movement early on, and they helped each other solve these problems. Like, how are we actually going to create sustainable business? So in telling Samazon's story, and being a documentary filmmaker, it's like, well, there's a bigger story here. There's a collective movement. I think there's something we could document that connects this common spirit between all these different companies. They all have this purpose. They all want to help change the world through their products. They want to solve social injustices, take care of the workers where they're farming, take care of the planet, consider regenerative farming, and consider fair trade operations. So it became this idea of like telling the story of a movement of companies, and then also enlightening viewers to see how they could actually support companies like this, and then in turn become part of solving environmental and social crisis along the way.
Well, and I think you did a fantastic job, and anyone who sees the film, I think will share that what you capture is not only the beneficial product of this movement, but also the challenges that each of them overcame themselves, and the fact that they keep challenging themselves to do more and to learn constantly. So what was that like for you also as a filmmaker, and in the process of learning about these businesses yourself?
That's a great question. I would say, in a word, inspired. I was really inspired by these CEOs. I mean, these people are just so passionate. They have committed their lives to this purpose. So they're really inspiring people. And it takes this dedication and belief in something bigger than yourself. And so you get really uplifted by these stories, because you feel like they're gonna win, they're gonna overcome these obstacles because they have this bigger purpose. And filmmaking, in a way, I haven't thought about it this way, but it takes this Herculean purpose, like this determination to finish. And so when you're telling a story about people like this, you have to finish, you have to complete, you have to lift it up, you have to do your best work. So, to document and do justice to their story, I felt inspired to really do my best job to tell their stories. And then, in a way, in turn, translate that and hopefully activate the audience and have them walk out uplifted, empowered as well.
Well, that is the big reason why we were attracted to your film, because the main mission of our festival is to inspire folks. One of our mottos is "It starts here," and I would say if a traditional film festival, which is about celebrating the art and craft of film, begins when the lights come down, for us it begins when the lights come up. When everyone has just watched an inspiring film like Seeding Change and is on the edge of his or her seat saying, "What can I do?" So, what can folks do?
This is a really, it's, I guess, serendipitous that that's how you look at it, because that's exactly what we were saying when we finished the film, that, well, what do we want people to do when they finish watching it? Because a lot of these films that were really powerful, that told a story about problems that needed to be solved in the environment or socially and environmentally, was like, what do I do? And it's like just a website. Like, I'm going to go to this website and maybe I'll give $5 and cross my fingers, But in this case, we're like, we've got to give people resources. We have to give them, a toolkit. They need to start thinking this way. So at seedingchangefilm.com, we have a whole page of resources and links where we begin this process of educating consumers on how to vote with their dollars. So that actually, trying to answer that question before we finished filming, was what led us to asking everyone we interviewed, how do you vote with your dollar? Because ultimately that's what we want people to do. Is we want people to, every time they spend $1, they spend money on a purchase, we want them to vote for that good company, that company that's doing good, rather than voting for the company that's polluting the river, voting for the company that's putting plastic in the ocean. So consider each dollar spent a vote in one direction or the other. So just getting people, the other producers on the film, Jeremy Black, Ryan Black, the co-founders of Amazon, they would say, you know, let's put our money behind those companies that are actually helping protect the rainforest rather than cut it down. But just getting these other people on my team, we just really want to get people thinking this way. And because that's the first step, is like the minute you realize how powerful you are as a consumer, then you can start making change with your purchase decision. And that every decision you realize can have an impact one way or the other. So voting with your dollars became a mantra before we finished the film, and we wanted people and all of our different interview subjects, interviewees, to answer that question for us. And so that became the call to action at the end of the movie.
That's fantastic, and that so meets our mission. You've already told us.
I do love, I have to say, that idea that what happens when the lights come back on. And I think that that's something I'll always remember, because that's really, at the end of the day, if we can't get people to act once the lights come up, then we haven't done our job if we're making a purpose-driven film, right?
The other tagline that we have is watch films, get involved, change things. So again, you know, that's our motivation for you know, the films we select and everything for the festival. So what's next for you?
I'm actually I'm a lifelong surfer, so I'm a passionate ocean advocate. And I'm working on a historical surf film on the untold story behind the iconic film, The Endless Summer. And basically, I'm working with Bruce Brown Films and Surfing Heritage and Culture Museum in San Clemente, California. We're working with the pioneers of the sport and basically telling a story that's never been told, and the inspiration behind Bruce Brown's The Endless Summer. So it's a piece of history and also surf culture. And again, it's similar to, you know, how we were trying to connect people through Seeding Change, you know, through the sport of surfing, trying to connect the dots through history and connect people and surfers, and also stewards of ocean health. And we're working with a nonprofit on the feature as well. They're called Sea Trees. And Sea Trees, we will always look to have an affiliation with a cause in my films. And in this case, the idea is that if we don't protect the ocean, we're not going to have a sport of surfing. And we have to recognize the history of that sport, and to realize the importance of it, the sport, and also the natural resources that allow us to participate in the sport. So Sea Trees is a foundation I also work with on Seeding Change, and they actually plant mangrove forests, and they help offset carbon through the planting of mangrove forests. And the mangrove tree is 5 times more carbon reductive than a typical forest. So they planted over 1 million sea trees through this effort, seatrees.org. And so they're one of our nonprofit partners of the film. So that's been a long adventure, adding in 1 year of COVID. And yeah, we're finally getting ready for film festivals. So look for us at film festivals starting in fall and late fall around the country. It's called Birth of the Endless Summer.
Birth of the Endless Summer. Well, Richard, we are definitely going to stay in touch with you so that we can communicate those updates through our social media channels and make sure that our loyal Global Peace Film Festival audiences are tracking your progress on that film and all your work, because we really do appreciate that kind of a focus on impact. So thank you so much.
Yeah,
And
to be part of it. Really great to be with a like-minded festival, and it's very empowering to know that there are festivals like yours and platforms like yours where we can find traction with these kind of messages and find our audiences, these core audiences that really can start changing things, and they can be the change makers in their own community.
we hear you. That is exactly what we're here for. So we're so glad that we connected with you, and that and thank you for your generosity of sharing your film with our audiences. And again, everyone who's been listening to this, please check out peacefilmfest.org so that you can find out the schedule for the in-person screening. Or if you miss the in-person screening, please be sure and catch it during the virtual program, which starts September 27th and runs through October 3rd. And if you want to learn more about taking action and voting, getting that toolkit to vote with your dollars, please go to seedingchangefilm.com and learn about all the different ways. One thing we didn't get a chance to kind of touch on, which is also in your film, is about the circular economy. Is about than just buying new things, but also making sure that we honor the things that are already created.
Yeah, upcycling, we do cover that well with the Outer Known brand, where they're taking old carpets and they're pulling plastic out of the ocean. They're pulling old fishing nets out of the ocean. They're creating fabrics and upcycling and creating products out of these out of items that could be trash or could be polluting our ocean. So I think that is definitely another big part of the story, and one we wanted to cover in the film. So I'm glad that you brought that up.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Richard.
Yeah,
and
really
thank you.
Great questions. Thank you, Nina. Thank you, Kelly. And look forward to hopefully seeing you in Florida.
Yes.
Absolutely.